Good to go. Hmm? No, that one's already running. That's why I said don't touch it. So I started it early so I could kind of check the levels. All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Sports Medicine Broadcast. The Ethnic Diversity Committee of SWATA. This week, our guests are Megan McKay and Natalie Trotter. Megan McKay is an athletic trainer working with Baylor College of Medicine, and we were talking earlier about how she works with the Wales lacrosse team, which in England, it's in Great Britain, right? Just a quick cultural lesson for you because I messed that up. And then kind of running the show today is going to be Sean Reedy out of Rice. So Sean's got lots of questions for Megan and Natalie. I am your host, Jeremy Jackson, and sitting right beside me today, we got
Kevin, Ben,
and Jose. Jose, say hello one more time.
Jose.
There we go. Had your mic turned off. Jose is actually going to be the one that we're asking the questions of, Megan, Natalie. So when you guys have some questions for one of my students, it'll be Jose. So if you want to join the conversation, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com. And this one is sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/diversity. So again, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/diversity will be this website. Without much further ado, we're going to get right to it. Honestly, Megan, whenever we kind of discussed having this podcast, I didn't know what the Ethnic Diversity Committee did. So will you give me a working definition of the Ethnic Diversity Committee?
I'm actually going to kick this one to Natalie, who's at University of Arkansas, because she's the chair of SWATA EDAC right now. So I'm going to let her take this one.
Okay. The Ethnic Diversity Advisory Council identifies and addresses issues relevant to the ethnic minority members and healthcare concerns affecting the physically active ethnic minority individuals, the profession, and the association as a whole. So what we try to do is identify issues that would affect, say, our patients, our student athletes, with changes with sickle cell protocols and stuff. So we put a lot of research into that. We've done like diabetes, high blood pressure. So as an organization, we try and identify things that are affecting the patient population, and we try to come up with something like a task force to try and address it and get that out there, as well as identifying issues that could affect our membership, the members, our peers, and we just try to bring it up and create task force to try and go back out into each individual district in itself to help correct, prevent, or help the cause in itself.
So it doesn't necessarily mean ethnic, because I'm thinking like white, black, Hispanic. It's more of a patient population.
It's all encompassing. A lot of times when we use the term ethnic or cultural, people tend to shy away from it. But as healthcare professionals, in which athletic trainers are, it is very, very important for us to understand that diversity is everybody's responsibility. So yes, you can put those labels on it, but in this day and age, it encompasses so much more than race. You have to put race in it, gender in it, culture, all of it combined. So it's a little bit more than just race itself.
All
So
right.
I think for the membership, a lot of people see the Ethnic Diversity Advisory Committee and think just that right off the bat, that it's just about race, when really the whole purpose is about culture in general. And so that could be religious and spiritual. It could be their gender identity and expression, their age. There's age discrimination that happens, and age bias, socioeconomic status, class, what language you speak as a first language. All sorts of things can affect what culture is and how that diversity affects our profession and our patient care.
So I know, Megan, you and I have talked about this. When I first went to my first ethics and diversity meeting, which was probably NATA in, I don't even remember the year. I went with Amanda Martinez. We were in grad school. She was like, "Hey, yeah, I know a lot of the people that are on." Which was probably NATA
Did we lose his feed?
I'm here.
Sean, you there? He may have dropped off. He'll jump back in. He knows how to do
Staying.
that.
Oh, there we go. Oh,
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I learned, I don't know where I cut off, but when I first went to my first meeting, I thought that I was going to be the one white kid that was there that was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about patient care. I learned a lot. I mean, obviously they were just talking about the issues that were going on and the things that they were striving for the year. But they talked about issues that are pressing, patient care, things like that. And kind of when I ran into that here at Rice was this past year, we got into a position where we were hosting the world weightlifting competition. And like, it was something, obviously, I mean, you run into it a lot in a lot of patient populations with our student athletes and things like that. But there was a certain team here that they did not let their females and male athletes train together. Their female athletes were not allowed to be looked at by males in the room. They wanted their coaches in the room and no one else was supposed to be in the room. So there's a lot of difference from what I think that the outside, I guess, thought is on that committee.
yeah, I think that's a good thing to bring up. When I tell people I'm on the Ethnic Diversity Advisory Council committee, they look at me because I'm a white woman, like, why are you on that committee? But it's important that it's a diverse committee because that's what it represents. And so I think you're right that stigma within our profession just about the committee itself is there. And that's something that all of us on the committee want to change. And so why we're happy to have an opportunity like this to even talk about that. I think the first thing to even mention is that all of us have bias. Every last one of us. We all in this whole planet have inherent bias. And that's okay as long as you can recognize that and learn from that. So here's a quick little riddle for you guys. I stole this from Jeremy Mara. I don't know if he had a chance to tune in today or not, but so here's just a quick example on bias, okay? A father and son are in a horrible car crash that kills the dad. So father and son, car crash, the dad dies. The son is rushed to the hospital. Just as he's about to go under the knife, the surgeon says, I can't operate. The boy is my son. Is that a little bit confusing for a second? Yeah? What about you students?
Most definitely.
Anybody
The
got an
surgeon's
answer?
the mom. The surgeon's the mom.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't even give them a
So
chance
we
to answer.
We automatically think it's the man, right? That the surgeon has to be a man. So that's just a quick example on just inherent biases we don't even think about. I did the same thing when I first heard that riddle. I automatically was like, wait a minute, how is that possible?
Stepdad.
Yeah, like stepdad or whatever. But the surgeon's the mother. So that's just a real simple example of inherent biases that we have. So I think that's the first step. It's just admitting that they exist, and then reflecting yourself that, oh yeah, I did think that too, and that's okay. But now let's talk about that and figure out what that means for our patient care, all of that kind of thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your quiz for your students, Jeremy.
That's all right.
And I literally just walked out of a doctor's appointment with a female orthopedic surgeon. So that's where that makes me feel really good.
You did it too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. First place my head went. So I guess starting off on it, what is cultural competency and where does that fall into the committee and what you guys do?
Natalie?
Okay, cultural competency. This is, we've had a big push for it, trying to get off of ethnic diversity to do more of a drive of cultural competence. So example I have is differences can emerge from an initial greeting of a patient. So a lot of cultures shake hands, and it is important for healthcare providers to know and understand all of these different cultures. You don't want to offend somebody from meeting them and shaking their hand or not shaking their hand. So cultural competence is just trying to get a better understanding of all cultures, of all patients that you may encounter, to be able to provide them adequate health care. Now, that's not going to say that you will be an expert in all areas, but you have to be aware of different cultures and how different cultures may see and interpret things if you yourself are striving to be a sound healthcare provider. So that's kind of how I look at it, which everybody's definition of it is going to be a little bit different on it, because I'm sure that Megan can talk to you about this for like 12 hours if you will let her, because she did a lot of work in undergrad on it with some pretty top-notch people.
So I guess expanding on that, that's the understanding of that some cultures don't want to, like, it is against their religion or it is against their beliefs to shake hands. Mm-hmm. It is that they see that as being offensive to their culture.
Yep, pointing or becking, telling someone to come here, or pointing, it can be offensive to a lot of different cultures, actually.
And on top of that, it could be other things such as barriers to healthcare. So for instance, if you're a high school athletic trainer and you're trying to get this athlete in to see the physician and they're just not getting appointments, you're giving them everything they need to get an appointment and it's just not happening, their care is being delayed, things like that, that's where as a healthcare provider you can say, okay, is there something cultural going on here? Does the parent believe in physicians? One of my injury reports that just came back from one of my physicians that worked at the Friday Night Football game this past weekend said, very last line was, the athlete requested you call his father because his mother does not believe in doctors. So that could be a barrier to healthcare. So it's not necessarily just physical or how you're treating them, but it might be their beliefs in what you're trying to do or something like that. So there's a lot of different aspects to it. And those are just a few.
So I remember several years ago talking about, or there was something that was posted on some type of social media. I'm not real certain what it was, but a student athlete that was of a certain religion that was not able to compete on Friday nights. I'm sure you probably remember it. And then finally, like they got into conference and they were able to compete because they moved the game to, it was on a Monday evening, the playoff game or something like that. But that's kind of what you're dealing with, but in patient care and in that healthcare related field. How do you, I guess you've kind of given some examples on that, but how do you combat that? How do you work towards that? How do we make that better? How do we change that?
Well, I think the first thing is admitting that we have that inherent bias, like that first example. Making sure that we're admitting that it's there and that you might not understand what's right in front of you or the person sitting across from you or the parent you're having to call, and just recognizing that and being willing to learn from that. So, you have an athlete that you're having these issues with, sit down and talk with them. Have an open-ended conversation with them about why they might feel that way. Let them know that you want to figure it out and that you're not going to judge it or whatever, that you're just trying to come to a solution. So I think starting those conversations, even if they're uncomfortable, is important. And then, using whatever tools you have available to kind of overcome the lack of education that you have about one culture or another, or one behavior or another, or whatnot. Using your free CEUs
right, Megan,
every year.
Megan, Natalie, I know you guys had a couple of questions for the students, so it's kind of a pretty good place here. As Sean, we were talking about the kid that couldn't play. Jose, he said his mom doesn't speak English very well, and so he's had to go to the doctor with her before. So what are some of those questions that you had for Jose about that situation?
So, Jose, I think it'd be important here to just ask your perception of cultural competence in healthcare providers. as someone who goes in with your mother and has that barrier, do you find that healthcare providers are competent on the barriers that you face as a patient?
Not sure. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Like,
Do you think that it's easy for them to talk to you, or easy for them to understand that your mom can't understand them?
oh yeah, most of the time when I go with her, like I normally talk to them like what she needs or what's going on with her. And growing up, I speak much more Spanish because I was what mainly everybody talked at home, and I learned more Spanish. And then once I got to school, when I started school, that's when I started learning English, and from there I just learned both languages. And I mean, it benefits much on when it's causes like that.
Right.
Do they offer
Sorry, go ahead, Natalie.
you guys interpreters?
Not much.
So around here in Pasadena, it's 90+% Hispanic. Do most of the doctors that you go to speak Spanish?
A little bit.
So probably more often they speak English.
Yeah. They kind of speak a little bit of Spanish for certain things, but not so much to where my mom can understand it. Yeah.
Do you find that maybe your own family or those in your community seek out Hispanic or Latino healthcare providers over non-Latino providers?
Wait, can you repeat that, please?
Do you find that people in your community try to seek out providers that are of the same background as you?
Do people around here prefer to go to a doctor that's from Mexico or Colombia or Salvador, or they just go to whatever doctor's closest?
Well, yeah, basically, I mean, what my mom says is they're all doctors. They must be trained to be able to notice what type of problem there is. They must be educated and everything since they're here in the United States and they have that type of degree to become a doctor. But she doesn't try to go to a specialist or anything like a Spanish doctor or anything.
Okay. That's interesting. Any of your other students have any experiences they want to share? Kind of similar to that?
Anything? I asked them yesterday, and they said all their parents speak English, except for Jose, his mom. Liz is from New Jersey, so they speak New Jersey rather than English.
Hey, I'm fluent in New Jersey.
So I remember when I was when we left Texas State, or when I left Texas State, obviously we had a lot of Hispanic students there, some from Mexico. I got up to the junior college that I worked at after there, and we had a Colombian kid. I'm not quite certain where exactly he was from, but he came in and his English was very, very minimal. Hello and goodbye was about it. So I actually had to use one of my former students call them. This was, before that you had Google Translate that you could just pop up and kind of try and figure things out. So I was talking to one of my former students in South Texas on the phone, having her translate it to him so that he could translate it back to her and then back to me. So it's kind of funny that some of those situations you have to run into, and a situation like that where kids have to go with their parents a lot of times is a real occurrence, I think, especially down here, especially South Texas, especially in this area.
Yeah.
All over the place. So, so I guess, what are you talked about educational aspects and educating ourselves about a culture.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that y'all's committee do? Is that, where can you get that information? How can you educate yourself on, hey, I have a kid from wherever, or I have a student athlete from wherever, patient from wherever. I need to learn more about them because their family doesn't like healthcare. Their family doesn't trust Western medicine. Their family, whatever that might be. Where are resources that you can utilize for that?
I think first and foremost, the colleagues in your community. Reach out to your Latin American athletic training friend from Texas State and have a conversation with them about that. Talk to your Japanese colleague that maybe you haven't worked with a lot, and ask them their impressions, their perspectives, how it affects them as a provider or as a patient. Reach out to the people that we know first and have those conversations. Let them know, you know what, I'm really just trying to educate myself here. I'd love for you to talk to me about this and your perspectives. Seek out information from those you don't understand is the first step. 2, you can go to the committees, send an email. You know, any of us in the council are available by email, that kind of thing. You can send the emails in that way through SWATA, you know, all the Facebook groups, any of that kind of thing. We're available and we want to start those conversations. And I think also, obviously, if you're a member of NATA, there's huge resources there available. We all get 10 free CEUs a year, and there's a whole section on cultural competent care of free CEUs that you can get for as part of your membership renewal. So I think that's a good place to go. A lot of athletic trainers aren't aware, but cultural competence is written into our domains of athletic training. And so those courses are available to fulfill that aspect. So I think seeking those out is good. When you're at convention, maybe don't go to the ankle instability talk for the 8th year in a row. Maybe go to the EDAC, thing. Put yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. You know, when you come out of college, maybe you say, oh, my weakness is in rehab, and then you seek out those courses to build that part of the weak part of what you see as your weakness in the profession. Do the same thing with cultural competence. It is a part of our healthcare and the care that we're providing our patients. So I think it's important to see it that way, just like we would if we, don't know anything about dry needling and you want to seek out more education on that. Do the same thing with this topic as well. And I don't know if Natalie has anything to add to that.
Real quick, let me jump in.
Mm-hmm.
Megan, your microphone is bumping up and down your zipper.
Oh, okay.
So it keeps.
I'll hold it. Thank you.
All right. So I'm sorry, Natalie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that if it is your patient as well, I know that I've had situations where I've had athletes from different countries. Like, don't be afraid to talk to them about things that you don't know, if it's going to help you provide them with better care. Just a mutual understanding. And I find that obviously they teach me more about life any day than I can ever teach them. But it's just an open learning experience, because if you think that you know everything, you might be in the wrong field, or you might want to try again. But cultural competence is not something that's going to be achieved overnight. It's like an ongoing process. And there are so many things that we can't write it all on one sheet of paper and put it all in one little box, because there's something new every day. But I think that building a network will be awesome for you to bounce ideas off of other people, for sure.
All right, let me jump in here. One of the questions when we first started talking about ethnic diversity was actually, I guess, more of an affirmative action type question, because when I thought ethnic diversity and athletic training, I was thinking, well, making sure that there's white athletic trainers, Hispanic and Asian and Black and everything athletic trainers. Is that one of the things that you guys have had to try and work to overcome as well?
Not technically, but statistically, the organization in a whole, the last set of data that we have is from 2015. There are about 81% non-ethnic, 4% that did not report, and there is a little under 5% who identify, a little under 14% that identify as a minority. So one of the things that we like to do as an organization, especially on the national level, is try to put the profession itself out there and try to encourage, mentor, motivate people to get into this profession, to change the numbers of it. But we're going through a degree change, and this conversation can go left really fast with that. But we do keep a track of the numbers, and we do try and make it, we try to make it grow. And I'm looking at this sheet right now, and I'm trying to tell you, they started tracking, or the numbers I have are from 1997 to 2015, and there is improvement in the percentage of the minority population of athletic training from 1997 to 2015.
It's almost doubled since then. So
Mhm.
people like Natalie, who've been doing this for a long time within the profession, are making a difference. It has doubled in our profession, but we're still below 15% minority population for our whole profession. When you compare that to the statistics in our country, where our profession is, it's very different. Minorities, our country is not 81% white. It's not. It's nowhere close. By 2050, they're projecting that it's going to be 53.7% of the population in the U.S. is going to be minority. In Texas, minorities are already the majority. So I think that is more what the discussion is regarding trying to increase diversity within our profession. And it also just goes back to that people are comfortable in their own comfort zones in their own cultures. We seek out those like us. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're more comfortable with people with similar cultural background to ourselves. So they're going to do the same thing with healthcare. I was pretty surprised by Jose's answer that they just go to whatever doctor and they don't necessarily seek one out that is fluent in Spanish versus non, that kind of thing. I think that's great, but that's not always the case. So I think that's why it's an important part of what we're trying to do. It's not necessarily about we need numbers of these individuals. It's more, let's reflect our profession based on what's going on in our patient base.
Gotcha. Yeah, like down in the valley here in Texas, which is right close to the border of Mexico, I was talking to one of the guys and I was like, hey man, maybe you could do something similar to this in Spanish. And he's like, I don't speak Spanish. I'm like, but you're Hispanic and you live and work in the valley. You know, and so for me, it's again like, oh, well, not all Hispanics speak Spanish. I know that, but
right.
You know, I'm like, I'm white and I speak Spanish. Okay. You know, it's just one of those things you have to remember. And again, it needs to reflect the patient population. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So how does cultural competence get to our colleagues? How do we, I mean, I guess this is also the push in the education programs. How, what are we looking for? What are we looking at? How do we make a individual that might feel more comfortable going to someone of their religion, their race, their ethnicity, their whatever that might be? How do we make our profession broader? How do we create that in our profession?
It's hard to articulate, but I think doing this and making, you know, maybe it's a PR push that we let everyone know we are aware that we're working on cultural competence and that it is part of our domains of athletic training and what we expect of our colleagues. And so I think that could be something. I think starting young, part of the reason I am so passionate about it is because I had a great mentor. One of our professors at Central Michigan, Renee Ravis-Jingles, she is a pioneer in our profession on this topic. She was the first one to write a textbook about it because she kept making it a part of every project we had. You know, we'd have a paper patient and my patient might be Muslim. Somebody else's patient might be from South Africa. Somebody else's patient might be deaf. And that was part of whatever project we had, whether it was writing a rehab program or whatever, there was always a dash of cultural competence thrown in. And so finally they pushed her to write a textbook about it because there wasn't any information out. She'd ask us to research things and it wasn't there. So now she's done that research, and her and other colleagues are writing about it and making that available to us as colleagues in the profession and to the students that are coming up through the profession. So I think here in Texas in particular, we have a great opportunity with our student athletic trainers that we have here in Texas. It's unlike other parts of the country. Natalie can attest that they don't have it in Arkansas the way that we do here. I've lived in 4 other states, and it's not ever been the amount of high school students that are involved in this profession. So I think Texas is doing a great job of starting that movement. And I think just educating about that in our curriculums is going to be an important way of making that change in our profession and getting that out there.
All right, so 2 things. Megan, who was your mentor that wrote the book? What's the title of the book?
It's Renee Revis Shingles. And I can't think of the title of the book off the top of my head. I should have done a better job of plugging that. I think it's Cultural Competence in Athletic Training or something similar.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't have a copy because she published it after I graduated.
Right.
I think I was in grad school, and so I didn't buy it.
I'll look for the Amazon.
I've read it.
or something.
I've read parts of it, though. I've borrowed it from a colleague.
Amazon, Megan, come on.
Yeah, I know. But yes, it's Renee Revis Shingles. She's done an amazing job in this profession.
All right, so then another thing I was thinking, some athletic trainers may gain cultural awareness by doing like mission trips, like CSMA, the Christian Sports Medicine Alliance. They go to Puerto Rico or Honduras or all the Dominican and all these different places, or Hungary, and there was, I can't remember where it was now, but all those different places, because Algeria, I think that's what I was thinking of. And they work with these athletes, and then you realize, hey, they don't have doctors at all in this village. You know, they just have a voodoo doctor or somebody who, I don't know, whatever. And so just by getting outside of where we are here, like if I don't ever leave Pasadena, that I don't know what's going on. That's why one of the reasons I love Twitter and I love doing the podcast is because I see stuff from all over the world being brought in, and I'm like, oh, well, hey, let me try it, you know. Or maybe I'm like, you know what, that's ridiculous. Why would I ever do that? And then I see it a few more times, and like, well, maybe it works for them. Then I see it a few more times, and like, well, let me just give it a shot. And then, oh, hey, that really worked for this kid. Okay, well, now I've been opened up. So that's another option for athletic trainers, is going on like a mission trip or internship or something like that during their off time.
And Natalie has experience with that. She might be able to touch on that a little bit as well.
Take it away, Natalie.
Okay. I was actually an athletic trainer for the International Sports Connection. So we did 2 basketball exchanges in Uganda, Lira, Uganda, where we went in and we did basketball camps. And it was for sure interesting. One of my friends spends, she splits time. She lives here 6 months. She'll go over there for 6 months. And she was like, hey, you should come do it. And I would teach some classes. So the first year I went in and I taught like a prevention of injuries class. And she was like, you have to teach them ways to sustain stuff. Don't bring anything from America, because you know that they're not going to be able to get it. So to me, that was a learning experience in itself, because I wasn't able to take BioFreeze from here to them. I went to the grocery store there. We ended up with witch hazel, Vaseline, and they still contact me to this day telling me that they still know how to make it and that they're still using it. And that's been like 3 years ago. But hand in hand, they also taught me stuff that I'm able to bring back, and I'm like, that's interesting. So like they're big into, like you said, no doctor. So for a lot of them, I was the only person that they potentially had ever seen in their life related to like the medical field. So it was interesting. Or eating raw bone marrow that could heal you according to them. But it's just interesting to look at the different perspectives on injuries, prevention, and healing in itself. But it was a pretty awesome experience.
When you said you did that for 2 years?
Well, I went over summer of 2012 for 2.5 weeks, and summer of 2013 for a little over 3 weeks. So I would love to go again if I could get a break from work to do so.
Gotcha. Sean?
That's a different dynamic, having to teach people to actually take care of themselves and do better on themselves instead of relying so heavily on us. It's kind of funny when you see in any athletic training room here in the U.S., especially like moving up from like high school, junior high, high school, college, pro, wherever you go, how much they rely on us and what we have, what we can do. And then you see anyone from a different country coming in. Like we've been pretty lucky to have some rugby and, like I said, the weightlifting stuff that was here and a few different things like that. And obviously seeing just different athletes that have come in from different countries, what they rely on and how they utilize those resources and what they do. It's pretty cool of what they can do for themselves instead of needing something.
Yeah, and I have a similar experience to that with the Welsh national team. You know, I work with the national team of this country, and they have socialized healthcare over there. Some of them will wait 8 months for an MRI, and they play for their nation because it's not an Olympic sport. It's not sponsored by their country's sport funding, things like that. I also, first time I worked with them, they would come up to me and say, well, what can I do? What rehab can I do? They were really inquisitive about how to take care of themselves. And that was a bit shocking to me because, frankly, here in our profession, we all hear each other complain about how helpless our patients are and how they can't do anything and whatever. But going over to somewhere like that, it was a bit shocking the first time because I expected a lot of the same thing. Here, do it for me, do it for me, do it for me, where they wanted to be able to go home and do it themselves because they can't afford physio more than for their first appointment or their second appointment, which is equivalent of therapy here. It's not paid for by the health insurance other than 1 or 2 visits. So they would have to do the rehab on their own. They're very compliant with whatever I tell them to do because of that. It saves them money to do what I tell them to do. So I don't get the pushback. I don't get all of that. Instead, I get them asking not for pushback, but because they really want to know so that they can continue to do that. They can learn from it, might be able to help another teammate out on a club team, things like that. So it's very interesting working around different cultures doing that.
Natalie, my kids are going to have to leave here in just a few minutes. What are some things that you or Megan would think that they can do to help increase the ethnic diversity or to increase the awareness, those kind of things? What are some action steps that they as high school students could take?
I like to learn from stuff. Hey, identify some things that you may think that are issues and get in contact with me. Help me help you.
That's one thing I was going to say is network. Start networking now as a high school student. You might not be able to think you could afford a master's program in athletic training, if schools are moving to that, or be able to move far away from your family because you help them so much or whatever it is. But the professionals that are in it have avenues of helping you out or figuring out ways of making that work for whatever your situation is. Because I think a lot of kids just think, I'm limited in these ways, so this is what I have to choose from. When doing a little bit of research, talking to the adults, getting your high school athletic trainer to reach out on behalf of you, things like that. There's all sorts of resources out there. So I think that's the first place to recognize that it's okay to ask for help and network, even though you're not in the profession yet. Get involved in your local organization. Start volunteering at different athletic training events. Even if you can't provide the patient care, you can probably learn from observing those other athletic trainers, things like that.
Yep, find a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so last week when we talked to Fred Roberts, our school board member, one of the things that he made the kids do was say their last name whenever they came in, shook his hand and say, "Hey, I'm Jose." Well, he said, "Jose what?" And
yes.
so he said, "Castillo." Well, he said, "Yeah, because I might need, I might hire you one day. You need to make sure people know who you are." And so that, just like he did last week, he said, know who people are, and that's exactly what you're saying for them this week. Is let people know who you are, and not because you do something stupid on YouTube or you get into fights, but because you're respectable, because you met them in a positive manner, like here on the podcast or, out at the doctor's office, that, hey, I'm interested in being a doctor. Hey, I'm interested in doing this. Could you share a few things with me? So.
Yeah. And I think having a conversation with that person too, as an athletic trainer, I ask other athletic trainers, oh, where have you been? Because we all know each other so through different channels. I always joke we're the Kevin Bacon of professions. It's usually less than 6 degrees of separation before we know each other. So I always ask, where have you been? Where have you worked? That kind of thing. And the same thing can happen at the student level as well. Where do you want to go? How do you want to get there? Just reverse the way that question is asked.
So I guess last or 2 weeks ago, we did District 6 and what they're doing. What is your committee doing right now? What are you striving for? What are you working for? Obviously, I mean, you've got things that you're trying to do, but what are you working towards right now?
Right now, we need nominations for the John Harvey Humanitarian Award. I'm going to plug that right now. So any athletic trainers that are listening, we need nominations. Nominate your colleagues. Don't be afraid to nominate your colleagues and get them the recognition that they deserve, not only for our award, but all the rest that are out there.
What is that? What is that award?
I'll let Natalie give the full description on it. She's better at it than I am.
John Harvey is a longtime athletic trainer from the Houston area. He actually recently retired from Texas Southern, and it is an award created to honor his exemplary service by his example. So we seek out nominations of athletic trainers who are doing the same thing in District 6, which is Arkansas and Texas. So we're looking for people who are passionate in the community, doing the same thing that our mission statement states. They're trying to make a difference in the lives of these patients, these student athletes, and they're giving back to the organization in itself. So that deadline is November 15th. Doesn't take long to fill out the applications either. So.
Yeah, so that's one. The other thing is we are going to be looking for new council members to sit on the SWATA District 6 EDAC committee. So if anyone's interested, they can shoot us an email, get in contact with us, because we're looking for people who want to be active participants on this council and to get more people involved in their communities and around District 6. So if anyone's interested in it, contact us, because we have 2 new positions to fill within the EDAC committee. So that's another step that we're looking for.
You have to volunteer online at swata.org.
Yes. So fill out the volunteer application, but then also follow that up with an email to Natalie or myself.
Right.
That's something that we were looking for.
And then here in Arkansas, like I said, Arkansas has its own ethnic diversity committee, which ties right into District 6, which then again ties into the national organization. But we have a large Hispanic population in Northwest Arkansas. Shocking, I know, but we do. And we try and go into these schools and talk to them about what an athletic trainer is. I did a presentation last year. I am an athletic trainer, and it's really simple. It's hard with our schedules, of course, but just trying to get out and tell people what an athletic trainer actually is, seeing if you can get some other people interested in the profession itself. So I try and do that once or twice a year, going to a career day, or sometimes actually guidance counselors email asking for you to come and speak. So promoting the profession, I mean, I think that it's everybody's responsibility to do that in a positive light. And sometimes we have to make an extra effort to get into the ethnic population to help do that.
One of the tools that I like to use is Duolingo. So I use that every day to practice my Spanish. And so that's something that's simple. They have hundreds of languages on Duolingo. It's free. You can download it on your phone, do it on your computer. And though it doesn't teach me cultural awareness, cultural competencies, it teaches me the language, and then I can continue to communicate that. So that's something that's definitely worth checking out. I've been doing it for a couple years. I think it's if you find me on Duolingo, it's PHS Sports Med, and then we can kind of compete, and you can see if you can have a longer streak than me, or get more points than me, or whatever like that. So they kind of make it into a game, learning a new language. And so again, it's another way to continue to build your cultural competencies or build a base for that, and then you can have that conversation with, why do you do it this way? Well, and that kind of thing. So go ahead, Sean, you had something?
Oh, I was just going to say that I think that's pretty cool there in the high schools, because I know here in Texas, obviously, I mean, not every school has an athletic trainer, but the state of Texas has a large push for athletic trainers. And I don't think that those that are in the state of Texas have an understanding of what it is like outside of the state. I mean, I grew up in southern Missouri, and you had to drive about 30 miles to find an athletic trainer that worked at a hospital that was kind of in charge of your school district. If that was the case and you had to drive to them, it's not like they came out and saw you or did anything like that. And it's a different world outside of the state of Texas. And that's huge, because I think that there is a lot of people that could get very interested in the profession and have a better understanding of the profession that just don't, because they don't see it. They don't see it like we do here in the state of Texas, and a lot of the high schools and settings like that.
And I think the other thing that we can do is reach out to other healthcare professionals. I know that we all get very frustrated in having to explain what we are as professionals, things like that. But getting that information out to other healthcare professionals, nurses, PAs, whomever it might be, anybody outside of orthopedics, educating our profession in those areas as well will really help, because most of those folks are involved in athletics. They have kids that play sports, and they didn't even know that they had an athletic trainer on the football field when their son plays. Things like that, I think, can really help out and trickle out into our immediate communities if we're talking about it. So I think that goes into what we're talking about. It doesn't have to do with race or anything like that, but it has to do with diversity within healthcare. So I think that's important to get to know people in neurology, get to know your colleagues in other areas of healthcare, I think is important as well too. So that's the way we can do it. And then I just second what Natalie said, getting out into your immediate community. If you're a high school athletic trainer and you have the luxury of a huge student program, things like that, it's a little bit easier for you to drum up that interest. But go to your neighboring high school that doesn't have one and go do a presentation at one of their STEM programs. Most schools have one of those for science, technology, education, mathematics. So do something like that. Just get out in your community.
On episode 194, we talked to Dr. Amy, which is my children's pediatrician, and she also said the same things, like get out and meet people. And a good way to do it is have an official letterhead and says, hey, this is who we are and what we do. Pleased to meet you. If we can ever help out, if we can work together in any way, let me know, and that kind of thing. And especially around here, there's so many little clinics, Mi Familia Clinic or Clinica Familia or whatever, I'm like, well, I really need to get to know these people, because they're the ones doing the physicals for my kid. And then they get to know who I am and they are, and we get to understand a little bit and work together. But unfortunately, that's one of the things that was kind of dropped further and further down the list, and I haven't done yet. So maybe I'll get to work on that.
So is there anything the EDAC's working on for Houston, since NATA is here in Houston this year?
Yes. So we're actually working on a lot of stuff since it is going to be in Houston. The social is going to be the talk of the town. They've already planned the social aspect of it, but we do have a town hall meeting, which the dates and times won't be released, I don't think, until maybe after the joint committee meeting in January. So the town hall meeting is where we get together and talk about issues that have been identified. We discuss things moving forward. We take suggestions from the organization. We also speak with the grant winners, which is pretty awesome. They come in, do poster presentations, and then they get to explain, I think they call it 5 and 5, where they get 5 minutes and 5 slides to explain what they have done with this money. There are grants available. Let me put that out there as well. I'm not sure of the deadline, but NATA EDAC does offer money to go into like neighborhoods. We've done grants that would sponsor EKGs, AEDs, or even doing sports camps for kids in these socio-economically challenged areas. So the money is there. If you can write a very, very detailed grant, there's a high chance that you will be awarded one from NATA. So that information is on NATA under the Ethnic Diversity Advisory Committee tab. So we'll have the town hall meeting when we're also doing a session. We just had a conference call, and I honestly cannot remember what the title of the session is, but all of this stuff is in work. We'll talk about it during the joint committee meeting in January, and then we'll start promoting it, putting it out there. And we're also going to be doing a service project, which is generally the day before NATA. So hopefully you guys can come out and help us with that.
So just curious, any idea what that'll be? And is that something that I could say, all right, let me call my high school kids and have them come help?
For sure. So with SWATA last year, we went into the Boys and Girls Club. Megan, where was SWATA? I just forgot.
In Fort Worth, Dallas. I was in Budapest when SWATA was here last.
So it was in Fort Worth, but what we did, we went into the local Boys and Girls Club, and we ended up having like a career discussion with the people of the Boys and Girls Club. With NATA, sometimes it is huge and it kind of gets out of hand. We go into like a YMCA, Boys and Girls Club. We try to do career talks, and a lot of times it just ends up with us doing exercises with the kids or teaching them some stuff and playing dodgeball or something like that. But that project has not been identified. I actually think I'm in charge of that, so we'll get to work. But we really like going to the Boys and Girls Club, but I will talk to Megan to see if she has another place that she thinks would benefit from that a little bit more. We tried to do physicals when we were in Houston 2 years ago, but we could have tweaked it a little bit better. But we ended up having a great career talk behind it. But you get into having to do permission slips and all of this other stuff that kind of hung us up. But the career talk before that was really, really good. But yes, once we get everything down, I will get it out to Megan and we'll share it. It'll be all over social media. But if you want to bring your students so they can experience it, that'd be awesome. And we also do a career day at NATA. So if your students are available to come, that's what we always battle with, trying to see if we can bring high school students in. We'll have to make sure that we have enough volunteers to take these students around for maybe 4 or 5 hours of the convention itself. And I really, really want to make that happen. And we do one day of it is a career day sponsored by EDAC, where it's probably about 4 or 5 hours where they just get to sit in. We talk about resumes. Megan talked to them about resumes this past year, but I think it's awesome to get the young people involved so they'll see some of what they could potentially experience in this profession.
Yeah,
Great.
so to carry on with that, if anyone listening or watching has ideas for us, places that we could host a great event like that, please reach out to us, because we are still trying to lock down a location and the set purpose of our community service event this year in conjunction with NATA. So we're still taking suggestions. And then again, once we get that locked down, we will definitely send that out to the membership and GHATs as well in the local area. Maybe those who are not NATA members want to participate, that we can get that involvement going in the local community here, since we have this great opportunity at our fingertips here in Houston.
Yeah, please, please, please let us know. And then if we have time, we would love to get into as many places as we possibly can.
Very cool. I know Kat Marr is listening live. She has a really good student athletic trainer program. She's here at Klein Collins. She's the host city delegate. And so I know she may be, I mean, I don't know how it all works, and that's okay. I'll leave that to you guys to figure out how it works and who interacts and that kind of thing. But maybe, Kat can give me some information about how kids can be involved. So do a lot of stuff. So
Yes, that's on my very long to-do list for EDAC, GHATS, and NATA between now and June.
All right. I know you said that we could go to the SWATA.org website and sign up for the volunteer list there. Megan, we'll start with you. What's the best way to get a hold of you if someone wants to get involved?
The best way to get a hold of me is email me, and that's Megan, MEGHAN, like Meg Han, .McKay, MCKAY, at BCM for Baylor College of Medicine.edu. The email is the easiest way to get a hold of me, because whether I'm in the office or out on vacation, whatever, I usually am pretty good at responding to emails. Budapest, I think, was the only time that I struggled, but that was an interesting Wi-Fi situation happening there. I rarely had it. So no, I don't plan on going anywhere like that anytime soon. So I should be reachable between now and NATA for people who want to get involved. We're certainly looking for volunteers, but we're also looking for committed council members for SWATA EDAC to become a council member and really help out this committee. We've got a lot of work to do between now and June and then moving forward. So this is Natalie's last year as reigning chairperson of our SWATA EDAC committee. We're going to be sad to see her go, but we're going to be looking for a new chair for that committee as well eventually. So we'd really love to get people who really want to be committed and produce for this committee and make things happen.
All right. So email Megan, MEGHAN .MCKAY at bcm.edu for Megan McKay. Natalie?
Yes. With my southern drawl, I'll see if I can get this out. It is ntrotter, NTROTTER at uark.edu. So that's ntrotter at uark.edu. That's probably the easiest way to contact me. If you guys have any questions, any comments, please feel free to shoot me an email. I promise you I will respond to that. If you have any ideas, any suggestions, if you just want to start helping out with the committee until it's your time to become a part of the committee, because we have a volunteer list, hey, we love all the help and we could use some.
All right. Again, that's NTROTTER at uark.edu. Natalie Trotter, the outgoing committee chair. So she needs somebody to what's the SWATA thing? Move on and replace. That's not what it is. What it is? You know what I'm talking about? Like it's a thing where you get new people involved, and I'm really butchering it right now, but it's like get people involved and kind of roll people out so that you can get everybody involved. You have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yes, we know what you mean.
I know what you mean.
I can't think of the word either.
No? All right. Well, sorry if I offended you, Natalie. That wasn't my point. But
No, not a chance.
I was just saying we're trying to get more people involved, right? So, all right.
Right. So they're getting rid of
I want
me.
some fresh
and looking for more
ideas.
People. Yes.
We're not
That's
getting
fine.
rid of you.
That's fine.
We're begging her to stay.
That's fine.
All right. Sean.
Yes.
Sean Reedy. How do we get a hold of you?
STR3 at rice.edu or Sean Reedy _ATC on Twitter.
And apparently they have lots of free Gatorade shoes, so hit them up and.
Not anymore.
Oh wait, Megan already took those to Wales.
Yeah.
So. Just kidding. All right. So Sean, you got any parting questions for Megan or Natalie?
No, I mean, the biggest thing I think that, we've kind of talked about over the last few weeks is just people getting involved and getting out there. And this is another great opportunity for people to volunteer and potentially even be on a committee, join a committee. And it's something that is big for all of us, big for our profession, big for our patient population. Nobody can say that they've not ran into something that some sort of patient that has a diverse background. So
Yeah, and again, I think we'll go back to Megan's little riddle where we all just assumed the surgeon was a male. And then, like I said, whenever I started this conversation in the show notes, it was about essentially affirmative action type, making sure athletic trainers are all different races, but it's not really about that. It's about the patient population more so, and in serving that patient population, whether you're white or black or Hispanic or Asian or Colombian or whatever it is. So again, there's lots of different ways to get involved or just learn about it. Like I said, Duolingo or mission trips or any of the other stuff we've mentioned. So here again, this is sportsmedicinebroadcast.com, and then this one's /diversity. So sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/diversity once it airs. We've already heard how to get a hold of Megan and Natalie and Sean. I am Jeremy Jackson. And then Sean, I'm gonna have to get you a PHS Sports Medicine shirt since you've been on the podcast so much. But Mike McKinney, my friend up at Boston, he's at Northeastern University in Boston. He was sporting the shirt that I gave him and taking pictures and putting on social media. So it's kind of cool seeing my gear up in Boston. So shout out to Mike McKinney there. Thanks, Mike. All right. So Megan, say goodbye.
Thanks for having us on. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about this.
No problem. Natalie.
Thank you so much. It was great to meet you guys.
And then Sean.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
All right, I'm gonna end the recordings. You guys can hang out and talk if you want, but I'm gonna go ahead and end all the streams. So if you gotta go, you gotta go. No worries. I'm gonna just go end the other stuff. All right.
All right, thanks.
All right.